So my name is Jasmine, and I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I was diagnosed with pituitary Cushing's. Looking back, I can see that the symptoms started right before puberty because at the age of 10, I gained weight really rapidly, and I got stretch marks for the first time. Everyone said that it was because I was out of school because I was getting ready to have carpal tunnel surgery, so I wasn't, having PE anymore. So that's what everyone said, but I don't think that was really the reason because it then happened again at age 15 and nothing had changed. No diet had changed. No, my physical activity hadn't changed. And then the stretch marks got worse. So, and I'm also kind of short, shorter than people seem to expect me to be based off of my parents' height. And I definitely learned in this conference that looking at my growth chart could probably tell specifically when the symptoms started. When I was first looking into Cushing's, because I went to my endocrinologist and said, I think I have Cushing's. And she said, I think you're right. So I got a lot of information from CSRF, and I enjoyed reading the patient stories and looking at the before and after pictures because I was thinking, oh, okay, it will get better. Everything will be better soon enough. And the conference was really good because it definitely really validated a lot of what I've felt and said to people over the past 3 years. And also getting to meet people who also have Cushing's because before this, I never got to actually meet anybody. Okay, so I actually had surgery about a month after the tumor was found. So that was really the first thing. But I also developed a CSF leak after surgery. So I had to undergo lumbar punctures and CT scans and MRIs. And that was for 2 years. Last November is when I actually got to go to Cedars-Sinai to get it fixed. So there were a lot of different procedures around lumbar punctures and all that kind of stuff. When the endocrinologist first said that they saw a mass, she was like, she didn't want to believe that it was actually a pituitary tumor. She's like, no, just be hopeful. It's not going to be a tumor. Then later on, we definitely started the journey together because she's actually the one who found my neurosurgeon for me and handled all of that kind of stuff. My older brother, he was in his first year of medical school, and I guess he had just studied like endocrine systems, so he was really interested in asking me, "Oh, did they test your cortisol?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Cushing's," So that was interesting. My mom actually explained it to other relatives, and I didn't really have to explain it to my brother, although I don't think he still completely understood. But to my mom, I've explained the fatigue as I kind of call it a zombie. That's how I tend to feel. And I've read before that chronic fatigue, it's like in stage AIDS. So that was something I often told her about how tired I was. And the weight gain was obviously just depressing because it was coming on so quickly and couldn't figure out why. And my cortisol actually never came up as high. So that was another thing I was worrying about, like if the tumor would actually stain for ACTH. So it was a bunch of different stuff. My medical team has actually been really spread out because I had surgery in Atlanta, Georgia, and I live in Birmingham, Alabama. My neurosurgeon is in Atlanta, and my endocrinologist was in Birmingham. So there wasn't a lot of coordination, and especially after the surgery. When I had to go to a local hospital for the CSF leak, they actually had a really hard time getting in contact with the neurosurgeon and convincing him to, have me sent to Piedmont Hospital. So it's been very frustrating. I don't think that most of the medical professionals I've seen understand Cushing's, even if they have an idea. And I think most of them do have, an idea of what a Cushing's patient is supposed to look like. but that seems to be all they know. If you don't fit that specific mold, if you don't have super high numbers, a lot of the time they kind of seem to brush you off. I wish the medical community would know exactly what Cushing's patients experience, especially when they brush us off and kind of insinuate that it's all in our head. In the case of pituitary patients, obviously it literally is in your head, but that's been one of the biggest issues for me, and also that some of us have really rare tumors. Like during this conference, I found out that mine is 1 in a billion. So I wish strangers knew that Cushing's patients actually have a disease. We don't just overeat, and we're not just lazy people who don't want to exercise, because that's the feeling I do get sometimes, especially being on a college campus where everyone is usually pretty small. And you do get lots of stares, especially because I'm on a walker. So I think there's a lot of different things that the public could really learn about Cushing's to help Cushing's patients in their recovery, their journey. My biggest frustration living with this disease is the lack of knowledge, really, the lack of information out there, especially because everyone says once you have surgery, everything's going to go back to normal. The weight's going to drop off. Immediately, you're going to get back to your former self. And realistically, during this conference, I've learned that that may not be true. And you kind of have to come to peace with the new you. One word that I would use to describe myself before I was diagnosed would be frustrated. One word that I would use to describe myself during my diagnosis would be excited. One word I would use to describe myself now is confused. And what I mean by confused is that I'm confused that my medical team doesn't seem to understand this disease at all, why they haven't done their own research, and why they seem to really think that the reason my symptoms are still here is because I'm not trying hard enough to do my part. So one thing that I would tell to patients, especially those who are in their late teens and early 20s, would be to continue to love yourself for who you are. And you can't compare yourself to those who you're around, because that's a big part of adolescence and being a young adult. But your journey is different. You've been through something that's really, really rare, and you really can't compare yourself to anybody else. You just kind of have to do you. So this weekend, I attended the CSRF patient weekend, and I came away with really vindication of what I've experienced and what I've told others. And I've also came away with just feeling like there's a family for me, and there are people out there who know exactly what I'm going through.